Have you ever looked around and wondered why some people just seem to sail through life?
Yeah, like they hit every green light.
Exactly. Acing exams, landing that great job while, others feel like they're pushing a boulder uphill no matter how hard they try.
It's a common feeling. And that difference, well, it often goes deeper than just hard work or luck.
Right. And that's exactly what we're getting into today. We're looking at this book, Luck is Genetic, by Akira Tachibana and Yasuhiko Ando.
Using that Fermi Manga University YouTube summary as a guide, which is great.
Yeah, it really helps break it down. The book tackles this core idea, how much our genes, our basic makeup, actually shape our lives.
And it definitely pushes back against some common ideas about effort, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, we're all told, work hard, you can achieve anything.
The classic narrative.
And look, we're not saying effort doesn't matter at all, but today we want to explore the really significant role genetics plays. It's often way more than we think.
So the mission isn't to say, oh, don't bother trying.
No, not at all. It's about getting a more maybe nuanced picture, understanding why some things might feel easier for certain people.
And that YouTube summary does a good job making these pretty complex ideas feel more accessible, like a conversation.
Which is what we're aiming for here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive in. The basic idea from behavioral genetics is that everything about us,
Our traits, abilities, tendencies.
yeah, it comes from three things interacting. Genetics, shared environment, like your family growing up,
Right, the common stuff.
and non-shared environment, all the unique stuff, friends, experiences you have on your own.
And the really eye-opening part is the numbers they put on that first one, genetics. The book pulls from research, like Charles Murray's work.
And the figures are, frankly, kind of staggering.
They really are.
We're talking like 30% to 60% of almost everything about us has some genetic influence. Think about cognitive ability, how well we think. That's estimated around 55% genetic.
55%. Wow.
How far you go in school. Educational attainment, around 50%. Even something like motivation, your drive. That's apparently 57% genetic.
That one's particularly surprising, isn't it? Seems so personal.
Totally. And it goes into areas you might not even consider. Alcohol dependence, for instance.
Yeah, the book cites around 44% genetic influence there.
Which really makes you pause, And the list goes on: neuroticism, conscientiousness.
Like being organized or prone to worry.
Yeah. Even things like your likelihood of having accidents, getting into trouble, your weight, even who you find attractive.
Illnesses too, obviously, but also romantic luck, money problems.
And get this, divorce. Around 26% genetic influence on your chances of getting divorced.
It paints such a broad canvas of genetic influence, it's almost overwhelming.
It is. And the immediate reaction might be, well, is effort pointless then?
Exactly. Does this mean we're just puppets of our DNA?
But that's the key thing, right? It's influence, not destiny.
Precisely. It's not deterministic. Like that 44% for alcohol dependence that leaves 56%, that isn't genetic. That's environment choices.
Right. So the point isn't to throw your hands up. It's just to understand the currents you might be swimming against or with.
Exactly. Knowing the landscape.
Okay, so genetics is a big piece. What about environment? The book splits it into two kinds.
Right. Shared and non-shared. Shared is what siblings growing up together usually experience in common.
Like family rules, how your parents are, the house you live in.
The general atmosphere, yeah.
The non-shared is everything else, all the unique bits.
Your specific friends, your hobbies, teachers you had, maybe even how your parents treated you slightly differently from your sibling. Your own path.
Ah, okay. And here's where it gets counterintuitive again.
The shared environment, the family stuff, we think is so crucial.
Turns out it often has a surprisingly small impact on many traits, sometimes down to like 0 to 20%.
Zero. It's wild. While the non-shared stuff, those individual experiences,
That can account for way more, like 20% to 60% of the environmental part.
which helps explain why siblings from the same family can be so incredibly different, right?
Yeah, totally. They share a home, but their friends, their relationships, their specific experiences diverge.
And their interpretation of shared experiences can differ too.
The book uses motivation again as an example. Remember, 57% genetic.
Yep.
Well, it's apparently 43% non-shared environment and 0% shared environment.
Zero. So all that parental nagging to be more motivated, maybe not so effective.
It certainly raises questions. Suggests motivation comes more from within or from those unique outside experiences.
Though it's not always zero. Shared environment can matter more for some things. Like, they estimate about 19% for alcohol dependence.
Ah, okay. So family environment can play a role sometimes, just maybe not the starring role we often assume for everything.
Exactly. It's more nuanced.
Okay, so genetics, big influence. Non-shared environment, often bigger than shared. Now, how does this change over time? It's not static, is it?
Oh, that's another fascinating point. The genetic influence tends to actually get stronger as we get older.
Stronger, how does that work?
Think about something simple, like hair. Your genetic predisposition for thick or thin hair isn't obvious when you're a baby.
Ah, right. It reveals itself later.
Exactly. So in early childhood, the environment, maybe really dedicated parents, early lessons, that sort of thing, can seem very powerful.
You see kids excelling early because of that focused input.
For sure. But as we move into adolescence and adulthood, our underlying genetic tendencies start to emerge more clearly. They assert themselves more.
So that student who breezed through elementary school might suddenly hit a wall in high school, even if they're still working hard.
It could be that, yeah. Or the kid who was the fastest runner at age 10 gets overtaken later on as others' genetic potential for speed catches up or surpasses theirs.
It's like the underlying blueprint becomes more visible.
That's a good way to put it. As we mature, our innate tendencies seem to gain more traction, and sometimes effort alone can't bridge the gap if the aptitude isn't there genetically.
Wow. Okay, this is a lot to take in. It feels a bit heavy, almost. If genes matter this much, and increasingly so, what are we supposed to do? How do we live with this knowledge?
Right, that's the critical question. And the book does shift gears here towards a more practical, proactive approach. It starts with self-awareness.
Really understanding yourself, your strengths, weaknesses, what you actually like.
Exactly, getting a handle on your innate inclinations. And the suggestion is you do that by trying lots of different things.
Experimenting, getting out of your comfort zone.
Pretty much. Because even the things you're drawn to, your interests, have a genetic basis. So by exploring widely, you might stumble upon a hidden talent or passion you didn't know you had.
So it's like data gathering on yourself. See what clicks, see what feels like pulling teeth.
Yeah. And the book even suggests, kind of playfully perhaps, things like changing your environment dramatically. Try mountain climbing, even if it seems random.
Why mountain climbing specifically?
The principle is just to shake things up. Introduce novelty. By drastically changing your non-shared environment, you might activate different parts of yourself, uncover things lying dormant.
Okay, that makes sense. Explore, experiment, get to know your own wiring, and then what?
Then the key is finding your niche.
Your niche, like a special spot.
Yeah, exactly. A specialized area where your particular set of talents, maybe even your slightly unusual ones, can really shine. Find your ecosystem.
Like the examples they give. Pet clothing designers.
Right. Or someone who becomes a YouTube star playing the nose flute. Or a pro gamer specializing in one very specific fighting game.
Things that aren't mainstream, but for the right person.
They're perfect. In a niche, you're not competing against everyone. You're leveraging your unique strengths in a smaller pond where they're valued.
That sounds way more appealing than trying to fit into a big competitive field where maybe your natural abilities aren't the best match.
It's about alignment, finding where you fit naturally instead of forcing it.
And what if you can't find an existing niche?
Then, the book says, create one.
Create one.
Think about, like, ice cream critics or ramen critics, people who took a passion and carved out a specific expertise. Tachibana apparently really emphasizes this. Find or invent your niche. That's a path to fulfillment.
Invent your niche. I like that. It feels empowering. But what about the pushback? You know, the don't give up, just try harder culture.
Yeah, the book tackles that directly. It argues it can actually be kind of cruel to keep pushing someone hard in an area where they genuinely lack the underlying genetic aptitude.
Leading to frustration, feeling like a failure.
Exactly, burnout. Especially since, as we said, even the ability to persist, that conscientiousness trait, has a genetic component itself.
Right, so just saying try harder ignores part of the picture.
It does. The more compassionate approach, the book suggests, is to acknowledge these tendencies and help people lean into their strengths, find environments where they can succeed.
It's tricky though, isn't it? Telling someone they might lack talent for something?
Socially difficult, absolutely. But the book argues that ignoring the reality of these influences isn't helpful either.
And maybe if society understood this better, we could guide people more effectively towards things they're naturally suited for.
That seems to be the hope. A potentially more productive and, frankly, happier society if people are working with their grain, not against it.
And the modern world, especially with the internet, actually makes finding these niches easier, right?
Massively easier. Think about it. The old path was often narrow. Good university, big company. That favored certain academic skills.
Yeah, skills with a strong genetic component for learning in that specific way.
But now, the internet creates platforms for almost anything. YouTubers, gamers, artists, niche bloggers, specialized coaches. So many ways to find an audience for unique skills.
It's less about fitting a single mold. And this understanding of genetics is even changing things like medicine.
Yeah, there's a brief mention of things like ulcerative colitis. Understanding its potential genetic links is leading to treatments like, well, fecal microbiota transplants.
Wow, okay, so using gut bacteria.
Right. It shows how understanding our biology, including genetics, opens up new solutions. It's all connected.
So the big message feels like, know yourself, find or create your specific place where you thrive, and keep looking because the opportunities to leverage what makes you unique are actually growing.
Definitely. Keep seeking environments where your innate traits are an asset, not a liability.
Okay, let's try to wrap this up. Key takeaways. Genetics influences a lot, maybe 30–60% of most traits. Our unique experiences, the non-shared environment, often shape us more than the family stuff we share.
Great.
Genetic influence tends to increase as we age.
Yep.
So the strategy is self-awareness, finding or making your niche.
Crucial.
And ignoring genetics can actually be harmful, while embracing this understanding can lead to better alignment. Plus, there are more opportunities than ever now.
That sums it up pretty well. It's about working with your nature, not just constantly battling it.
So a final thought for you listening. Thinking about all this, what are some of your own natural interests or tendencies, things that just feel easy or right for you? Could you explore those more, maybe in a new or niche way?
Or maybe just ask, how does knowing genetics is a factor, but not the only factor, change how you might think about your career or personal growth?
Definitely some food for thought there.
We hope this deep dive gave you some valuable new perspectives.
Thanks for joining us as we explored the complex world of genetics and how it shapes our lives. We'll catch you on the next one.